Maduro's capture. With us now, Congressman Adam Smith of Washington, ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee, who joined the briefing. Congressman Bera of California, member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Gents, good to have both of you. Start with Congressman Smith. You, in the past, have been critical, basically saying that President Trump needed to get congressional approval or give notification before this. I'm guessing the briefing didn't change your opinion on that fact. You think about who Nicolas Maduro is, objectively horrible human being. Don't ask me, ask Joe Biden, who put a $25 million bounty on his head.
No argument.
Why do you, I should say this, do you worry that Democrats look silly complaining about Donald Trump going to arrest somebody who Joe Biden put a $25 million bounty on his head?
No, I don't, because that's not what we're doing. Okay. We are focused on what comes next in Venezuela. And President Trump saying that we are running Venezuela and we're doing it because we want their oil undermines our ability to bring the stability to Latin America that people want. And look, to answer Bill O'Reilly's question, what should we do about the drug problem? It has vexed a lot of people. First of all, we shouldn't kid ourselves that removing Nicolas Maduro is going to make any appreciable difference in that drug problem. But second of all, there was a thing that was done under, I think it was George W. Bush, Plan Colombia, where we worked with the Colombian government and we used U.S. forces to go in and work with the government that made a dramatic impact on interrupting the narco trafficking trade out of Colombia. So work with partners in the region to suppress it. What President Trump has done by going in there and removing Maduro and then talking about oil and the U.S. running it. Look, Chavez and Maduro, horrible, horrible leaders, rode that country right into the ground. One of the main sources of their power was they stood up and said, we're standing up to U.S. imperialism.
No, you're standing up to the imperialists and everything.
People in Latin America.
It did. But Congressman Bera, I keep hearing from Democrats over and over again this complaint about not seeking congressional approval, on and on. The alternative was leaving Maduro in place, which, by the way, Democrats weren't happy when Donald Trump did that either. Here's, for example, Chuck Schumer in 2020.
The president brags about his Venezuela policy? Give us a break. He hasn't brought an end to the Maduro regime.
It seems as though Donald Trump can't do anything right in terms of Democrats' view. If he leaves Maduro in power, he's not bringing an end. And if he brings an end, then he doesn't have a plan.
Leland, I agree with Congressman Smith that this isn't about Maduro. You know, he's a bad guy. It's good that he's gone. It's about what comes next. What's the plan? Are we going to have troops on the ground? When the president says he's going to run Venezuela, what does that mean? I think if he's going to do all that.
What's the alternative? Hold on. Joe Biden used to say all the time, Congressman, he used to say, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. The alternative was having Maduro still in power today. You're telling me that America's better off, more respected in the world, we're all safer with Maduro staying in power every day?
No, what I'm telling you is you've removed the president. Is there conversations with the succession? What does that look like? He's talking about oil companies going in there, reviving Venezuela's oil industry.
But this is a binary choice, sir. Every day is a binary choice.
Congress is.
Can I take a step at that, Leland?
At least the Gang of Eight and others, you know.
Oh,
you don't.
I hear you.
Leland, can I take a stab at answering your question?
Sure, please do.
So, yeah, no, it is a binary, but the how matters and the what comes next matters. Is Venezuela better off without Maduro? The answer to that question, I think even you would agree with this, is right now, we don't know, because we don't know what comes next. It was awful and it was terrible.
We don't know?
No, we don't, because we don't know what's going to happen.
I feel like Democrats in this. Go ahead.
But I'm not saying that Maduro is a great person. I mean, the Ayatollah is a terrible person in Iran. So why don't we send in 100,000 troops and take him out? Okay, because the cost of that might be higher than how bad he is right now. And so we will see what is going to happen. But second of all, the legality of it does matter. And the way we did it does matter, because you're right. The key to this is the Venezuelan people. Where are they going to go? Are they going to work with us going forward? And their credibility, the fact that President Trump also undermined Machado, who is very popular in Venezuela, and he sort of shoved her to the side and all of that, that makes it less likely that we're going to be successful. So no, it's not just a binary choice.
Well, it
If you
is
don't
every
support Trump,
day.
that means you support Maduro. That's not true.
Let me just ask one last question. Congressman Bera will give him the last word. This feels a little bit like one of those situations where one team wins the Super Bowl. You go and grab Maduro, who's somebody that both Democrats and Republicans view as terrible, that Joe Biden put a $25 million bounty on his head. You go grab him, not a single American serviceman dies. That's winning the Super Bowl. And you've got Democrats sitting here arguing about some holding penalty in the third quarter.
No, you think Venezuela's a holding penalty in the third quarter?
I think trying to argue about congressional notification of the Gang of Eight, there's not a lot of Americans I talk to who worry about.
We're talking about how Venezuela's actually going to be run. That matters.
Well, we know how it was being run. You're saying Venezuela is going to somehow be worse?
Well, it certainly could be, and it certainly might not be better. Sorry. Go ahead.
There's a reason why Donald Trump didn't do this in his first term. They did war games, and in that, the conclusion was there was a higher likelihood Venezuela would fall into chaos, and that's why they didn't do anything. And you should have folks on that participated in those war games. We don't know what's going to happen, and again.
If you know of any of them,
the president's working with Congress.
If you know of any of them, we'd love to have them on. Gentlemen, thank you both. Congressman Adam Smith, Ami Bera, appreciate it. First wrote about this in War Notes, a lot more about it in War Notes tomorrow. Your chance for an inside